Whispers of Eldergrove, Chapter 1. The village of Eldergrove lay cloaked in the tender embrace of twilight, a time when the world seemed suspended between dreams and waking. The air was cool and heavy with the scent of damp earth, mingling with the sweet fragrance of night flowers whose petals glowed softly, whispering secrets to those who cared to listen. Elara Whitethorn moved with a grace that belied her 94 years. Her steps sure and purposeful as she navigated the cobblestone paths. The stones beneath her feet hummed with stories of old, tales she had known since childhood and could recite in her sleep. She paused at the edge of the village square, where the ancient oak tree stood sentinel, its branches reaching skyward, as if yearning for the stars. A soft rustling drew her attention. "Elara," came a familiar voice, smooth as silk and tinged with an accent that spoke of distant lands. Draven emerged from the shadows, his eyes catching the dying light like twin galaxies. His presence was both a comfort and a mystery, a puzzle Elara had yet to solve. "Draven," she replied, inclining her head slightly in greeting. Their eyes met, and for a moment it was as if time itself held its breath. "Have you felt it?" Draven asked, his voice low and resonant. "The shift in the air?" Elara nodded, her gaze shifting to the horizon where darkness gathered like a storm. "The council stirs. They seek to bind Eldergrove's magic for their own ends." Draven's expression hardened, his jaw set in determination. "We cannot let them succeed." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chuckle from behind. Emberly Jones stepped forward, her presence as enigmatic as ever. "Ah, young love," she teased gently, though there was warmth in her eyes. Elara felt a blush creep up her cheeks. "Emberly?" she chided lightly, though her heart fluttered at the implication. Emberly waved a hand dismissively. "You two have more important matters to attend to than an old woman's musings." "Indeed," Draven agreed, casting a sidelong glance at Elara that made her pulse quicken. "But we could use your guidance, Emberly." The Elder Seer nodded, her expression growing serious. "The Council's power is not to be underestimated. How they weave their influence through Eldergrove like a spider spins its web, quietly, insidiously." "And you know how to unravel it?" Elara asked, hope threading through her voice. Emberly's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Perhaps. But first you must be willing to see beyond what is plainly visible." Draven stepped closer to Elara, his proximity sending a shiver down her spine. "We're ready," he said firmly. Emberly studied them both for a long moment before nodding. "Then follow me." She led them through winding paths that seemed to twist and turn with a will of their own until they reached Emberly's cottage. A quaint structure nestled beneath the boughs of towering pines. The air here was thick with magic, an energy that thrummed beneath Elara's skin. Inside, the cottage was cluttered with herbs and trinkets, each imbued with its own history and purpose. Emberly gestured for them to sit at a small wooden table strewn with maps and scrolls. "The Council's strength lies in their unity," Emberly explained, her fingers tracing patterns on an ancient parchment. "But unity can be fractured." Draven leaned forward, his gaze intent. "How do we do that?" Emberly looked between them, her eyes alight with an inner fire. "By awakening Eldergrove itself." Elara frowned slightly. "Awakening?" "Yes," Emberly confirmed. "The village is alive in ways most cannot comprehend. Its magic is dormant but powerful. And how do we awaken it?" Draven pressed. Emberly smiled enigmatically. "With the right spell, a spell only Elara can cast." Elara's heart skipped a beat. She had always known there was something unique about her connection to Eldergrove, but this revelation was both exhilarating and terrifying. "Me?" she whispered, doubt creeping into her voice. Emberly placed a reassuring hand on hers. "You are more than capable, my dear." Draven's hand found hers under the table, his touch steadying. "I believe in you, Elara," he murmured softly. Her heart swelled at his words, and she nodded resolutely. "Then tell me what I must do." Emberly's smile widened, and she began to explain the intricacies of the spell, a blend of ancient words and gestures that would awaken Eldergrove's slumbering magic. As they spoke, Elara felt something stir within her, a flicker of power that had always been there but now burned brighter than ever before. It was as if the very essence of Eldergrove flowed through her veins, connecting her to something vast and timeless. "We'll need Sir Callan Riker," Emberly added suddenly. Elara's brow furrowed in surprise. "Callan?" Emberly nodded. "His knowledge of ancient spells will be invaluable." Draven rose to his feet. Then let's find him." As they left Emberly's cottage and stepped back into the cool night air, Elara couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency thrumming through her veins, a call to action that could not be ignored. Beside her, Draven walked with quiet confidence, his presence a steady anchor amidst the swirling currents of magic and uncertainty. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, bound by love and purpose as they embarked on a journey to save Eldergrove from falling into darkness. And as they ventured into the unknown, Elara felt something shift within herself, a newfound strength born from understanding her true nature and embracing the power that had always been hers. The veil between worlds was thinning, twilight beckoned with promises of change, and so began their quest, a dance through parallel realities where dreams intertwined with reality and love became both sanctuary and perilous journey. Eldergrove awaited its awakening, a destiny woven from whispers and shadows, and Elara Whitethorn would be its guiding light. Chapter 2. Eldergrove lay shrouded in the gentle embrace of twilight, where the air hung heavy with the scent of night flowers and the cobblestones whispered secrets beneath Elara's feet. She walked with purpose, the hem of her cloak brushing against the ground like a ghost's touch. The village seemed to breathe in tandem with her, each inhalation a promise of magic, each exhalation a sigh of mystery. Her destination was Emberly Jones' cottage, a place as familiar as it was enigmatic. The thatched roof hummed softly with stories untold, and the windows glowed with a warm, inviting light. Elara paused at the threshold, feeling the weight of anticipation settle upon her shoulders. "Elara," came Emberly's voice from within, rich and melodic, as if the very walls had spoken her name. "Come in." The door creaked open, revealing Emberly seated by the hearth, her eyes alight with an inner fire that belied her years. The room was a tapestry of herbs and dried flowers, their scents mingling in an intoxicating dance that filled Elara's senses. "I see you received my message," Emberly said, her gaze steady and knowing. Elara nodded, settling into a chair opposite her old friend. "The wind carried it to me, wrapped in a song only I could hear." Emberly smiled, a gesture that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. "And what did it sing to you?" "Change is coming," Elara replied softly. "A change I am not ready for." "You've never been one to welcome change," Emberly noted, her tone gentle yet firm, "but perhaps it is time to embrace it." Elara sighed, her fingers tracing patterns on the armrest. "Draven has stirred something within me, an awakening of power I do not fully understand." Emberly leaned forward, her eyes locking onto Elara's with an intensity that spoke volumes. "He is a catalyst, Elara, a bridge between what was and what will be, but you must decide how far you are willing to cross." Silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken truths and questions that lingered like specters. The fire crackled softly, its warmth a comforting presence in the room. "What do you see in him?" Elara asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Emberly considered the question, her gaze distant as if peering into realms unseen. "I see a man caught between worlds, a guardian of forgotten lore who carries burdens not entirely his own. And yet," Elara continued, "he feels familiar." "Souls recognize one another across lifetimes," Emberly said, her words laced with mystery. "Perhaps yours have danced together before." The notion sent a shiver down Elara's spine, a sensation both thrilling and unsettling. She glanced out the window where shadows danced under the moonlight, their movements echoing the turmoil within her heart. "Will you help us?" Elara asked, shifting the conversation to more immediate matters. Emberly nodded slowly. "Eldergrove harbors secrets that must be unveiled if we are to stand against the Council's darkness. I will guide you as best I can." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Elara turned to find Draven standing in the doorway, his presence as commanding as ever. His eyes met hers, galaxies swirling within them, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. "May I join you?" he asked, his voice resonant like a forgotten melody. Emberly gestured for him to enter. "Of course, Draven, you are welcome here." As Draven settled into a chair beside Elara, Emberly observed them both with quiet curiosity. "You two share a connection that transcends time," she remarked. "It will be your greatest strength and your greatest challenge." Draven nodded thoughtfully, his gaze never leaving Elara's face. "We must unravel Eldergrove's mysteries together if we are to protect it." Elara felt the weight of his words settle over her like a mantle, a responsibility both daunting and exhilarating. Her heart quickened at the thought of what lay ahead, a journey fraught with danger, yet brimming with possibility. "We will need allies," Emberly said, breaking the silence that had fallen over them. "There are others who share our vision for Eldergrove, a vision of freedom and light." Draven exchanged a glance with Elara before speaking. "Sir Kalen Riker might be persuaded to join our cause. His knowledge of ancient spells could prove invaluable." Emberly nodded in agreement. "Kalen has long watched over this village from the shadows. He would make a formidable ally." Elara felt hope stir within her chest, a fragile flame kindled by their shared determination. Together they would face whatever trials awaited them. Together they would forge a new destiny for Eldergrove. As they discussed their plans late into the night, Elara found herself drawn ever closer to Draven, his presence grounding her even as it set her spirit free. In his eyes she glimpsed a future she dared not dream of, a future where love triumphed over fear and magic danced unfettered beneath starlit skies. When at last they rose to leave Emberly's cottage behind them, stepping out into Eldergrove's enchanted night, they did so hand in hand, two souls bound by fate's inexorable weave, two hearts entwined upon a path unknown but filled with endless promise. And as they walked beneath moonlit boughs toward whatever awaited them beyond Eldergrove's borders, echoes of past and present mingling within their steps, Elara knew one thing for certain. This journey would change everything. But perhaps that was exactly what she needed most of all. Chapter 3. The twilight air wrapped Eldergrove in its familiar embrace, the village a mosaic of shadows and whispers. Elara Whitethorn ambled along the cobblestone path, her cane tapping a gentle rhythm that harmonized with the rustle of leaves. The night flowers bloomed around her, their luminescent petals casting a soft glow that danced across her weathered features. "Elara," a voice called out, gentle yet firm. She turned to see Emberly Joan emerging from the mist, her silhouette framed by the faint light of her herb-laden cottage. "Emberly," Elara greeted with a nod, her eyes meeting those of the seer who had been a silent guardian throughout her life. "What brings you out into the evening air?" "The same thing that draws you, I suppose," Emberly replied, her eyes twinkling with secrets. "The promise of answers." Together they walked, their steps falling into an easy rhythm. The quiet hum of Eldergrove enveloped them, a symphony of crickets and distant laughter carried on the breeze. "You felt it too, haven't you?" Emberly asked, breaking the silence. Her voice held an edge of urgency. Elara nodded, her heart heavy with unspoken truths. "Yes, ever since Draven's arrival, the air feels charged, as if something stirs beneath the surface." Emberly paused, turning to face Elara fully. "There are forces at play that seek to control what they do not understand. The council grows restless." A shadow passed over Elara's face. She had long suspected the council's intentions, their influence creeping into every corner of Eldergrove like a silent specter. "And what of Draven?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emberly regarded her with a knowing smile. "He is both catalyst and key. But be wary, Elara. The path you tread with him is fraught with peril." They continued in silence until they reached Emberly's cottage, its windows glowing with the warm light of a hearth within. Emberly gestured for Elara to enter, the scent of herbs and earth enveloping them as they stepped inside. As they settled by the fire, Emberly reached for a bundle of dried lavender, crushing it between her fingers until its fragrance filled the room. "Tell me of your dreams," she prompted softly. Elara hesitated, her gaze fixed on the dancing flames. "They are vivid," she confessed. "I see places I've never been, hear voices that echo with familiarity, yet remain unknown." Emberly nodded, her expression unreadable. "Dreams are the threads that weave our realities together. They hold truths that our waking minds struggle to grasp." Elara's eyes met Emberly's, seeking reassurance in their depths. "And what truth do my dreams hold?" "The truth of who you are," Emberly replied simply, "and who you might become." Their conversation drifted into comfortable silence, each woman lost in thought as the fire crackled between them. It was only when the flames began to wane that Elara spoke again. "I fear what lies ahead," she admitted, her voice tinged with vulnerability. Emberly reached across the table, placing a hand over Elara's own. "Fear is but a shadow cast by doubt. Remember your strength, Elara, and remember that you are not alone. The words lingered in the air long after Elara left Emberly's cottage, their weight both comforting and daunting. As she made her way home through the mist-laden streets of Eldergrove, Elara felt the familiar pull of magic in her veins, a quiet promise of power and possibility. But with it came an undercurrent of danger, a reminder that every choice she made would ripple through the delicate fabric of their world. She paused at the edge of the village square, her gaze drawn to the ancient oak that stood sentinel in its center. Its gnarled branches reached skyward as if yearning to touch the stars, a testament to resilience and endurance. In that moment, Elara knew that she could no longer stand idle against the Council's oppressive grip on Eldergrove. Her path was clear. She would fight for her home, for Draven, and for the magic that pulsed beneath their feet like an unding heartbeat. With newfound resolve, she turned away from the oak and continued down the path towards home, each step echoing with purpose and determination. The night deepened around her, but Elara moved forward unafraid, ready to face whatever shadows lay ahead in pursuit of freedom and love, untamed by fear or constraint. Chapter 4. The morning mist clung to Eldergrove like a shroud curling around the ancient oak in the village square. Elara Whitethorn paused beneath its gnarled branches, her fingers brushing the bark as if seeking counsel. The tree's presence was a comfort, a reminder of the steadfastness of nature amidst the swirling tides of change. "Elara," came a voice, soft yet resonant, breaking the silence. Emberly Jones stood nearby, her eyes alight with a knowing gleam. "I thought I'd find you here." Elara turned, offering a faint smile. "Emberly, it's good to see you." Emberly approached, the hem of her cloak whispering against the cobblestones. "The air is thick with secrets today," she murmured, glancing around as if expecting the shadows to reply. Elara nodded, her gaze drifting to where the mist obscured the path leading to her cottage. "Draven's arrival has stirred something in Eldergrove. And in you," Emberly added gently, her words laced with understanding. Elara met her eyes, feeling the weight of unspoken truths between them. "He's different. There's a connection I can't quite explain." Emberly smiled, a blend of warmth and mystery. "Magic often defies explanation, dear Elara. It's felt, not understood." They stood in companionable silence, the village's quiet bustle a backdrop to their thoughts. Elara's mind wandered to Draven, his presence like a melody that lingered even in his absence. "Have you spoken with him?" Emberly asked, breaking the reverie. "Not since yesterday," Elara admitted. "He spoke of realms unseen, of paths that twist through time and space." Emberly's expression grew pensive. "He carries knowledge of things lost to us. Be wary, but also open. There is much he can teach you." A gust of wind rustled the leaves above them, and Elara shivered despite herself. "And what of the Council?" she asked, lowering her voice. "Their grip tightens with each passing day." Emberly's gaze hardened, her voice firm. "They fear what they cannot control. But remember, light shines brightest in darkness. We must be vigilant." As they spoke, the mist parted briefly to reveal Sir Callan Riker approaching from his forge. His silhouette was a familiar one, solid, reassuring. "Morning, Elara," he greeted with a nod, his tone gruff but not unfriendly. "Callan," Elara replied warmly. "Any news?" He shook his head, casting a wary glance toward the village's heart. "Only whispers. The Council's been restless." Emberly exchanged a look with Elara before turning to Callan. "We need to prepare," she said simply. Callan's eyes narrowed slightly, understanding dawning. "Aye, whatever comes, we'll face it together." Their alliance was an unspoken bond forged through years of shared purpose and quiet rebellion against the Council's oppressive rule. As they parted ways, Elara felt a renewed sense of determination. Draven had awakened something within her, a power she was only beginning to understand. She needed to speak with him again, to unravel the mysteries that bound them together. The path to her cottage wound through the forest like a serpentine ribbon, each step accompanied by the symphony of rustling leaves and distant bird calls. When she reached her door, she found Draven waiting. His presence was like an eclipse, dark yet luminous, drawing her in despite herself. "Elara," he greeted softly, his voice like velvet brushed against stone. She inclined her head in acknowledgement, her heart quickening at his nearness. "Draven." They moved inside, the air tinged with the scent of herbs and earth. Draven's gaze lingered on the shelves lined with jars and vials, a testament to Elara's life as a keeper of lore. "You live surrounded by memories," he observed, his tone contemplative. Elara followed his gaze, seeing her world through his eyes. "Memories and magic," she replied. "Both are intertwined here." Draven nodded, stepping closer until they were separated by mere inches. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension, a bridge built on shared secrets and unvoiced desires. "I wish to show you something," he said after a pause, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that stole her breath. She hesitated only briefly before nodding. "What is it?" He extended a hand toward her, palm upturned, a silent invitation. Elara hesitated once more before placing her hand in his, feeling an electric jolt at the contact. Draven closed his eyes briefly, and suddenly the room shifted around them. The walls seemed to dissolve into mist, leaving them standing in a twilight realm where shadows danced like living entities. "This is extraordinary," Elara breathed, awe coloring her words as she took in their surroundings. Draven smiled faintly, releasing her hand but keeping close. "It's but a glimpse of what lies beyond our world, a place where time and reality bend." Elara reached out tentatively toward one of the shadowy forms flitting past them, a creature both familiar and alien in its grace. "They're beautiful," she whispered, feeling a pang of longing for something she couldn't name. Draven watched her with an enigmatic expression. "They're echoes of what once was, fragments seeking wholeness." His words resonated within her like an ancient song remembered only in dreams. "Why show me this?" Elara asked softly when silence stretched between them once more. Draven's gaze held hers unwaveringly, galaxies swirling within depths that defied comprehension. "Because you are part of this world too, more than you know." The revelation sent shivers down Elara's spine, a tantalizing promise wrapped in mystery. As they returned to reality, back within walls adorned with stained glass casting kaleidoscopic patterns, Elara felt change somehow, awakened yet yearning for answers still hidden from view. She met Draven's gaze again, questions hovering unasked between them like specters waiting for release. But before either could speak further, a sharp knock echoed through the cottage door, a sound that shattered their intimate moment like glass splintering under pressure. Elara exchanged a glance with Draven, a silent agreement passing between them as she moved toward the door, heart pounding against ribs like caged wings desperate for flight. Opening it revealed Emberly standing there, urgency etched into every line of her face as she spoke quickly. "The council knows! They're coming!" Shock rippled through Elara, fear threading its way through resolve, even as determination solidified within core, steel tempered by fire readying itself for battle long overdue against forces darker than night itself, threatening all held dear within Eldergrove's fragile embrace. And so began their journey anew, a quest fraught with peril yet brimming with hope, love dancing on edge oblivion, where dreams dared tread alongside nightmares lurking ever near. Chapter 5. The village of Eldergrove lay beneath a sky that bled hues of indigo and silver, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming night flowers. As the twilight settled, Elara Whitethorn stood at the edge of her garden, her fingers brushing against the leaves of herbs that whispered secrets only she could hear. The village thrummed with an undercurrent of magic, a symphony of unseen forces that wove through the cobblestone paths and ancient trees. Her gaze drifted to the horizon where the mist curled like a living thing, shrouding the world in mystery. It was here, in this delicate balance between dusk and dawn, that she found solace. Yet tonight her heart was restless, stirred by thoughts of Draven, the enigmatic wanderer whose presence had disrupted the rhythm of her life. "Elara," a familiar voice called, breaking the quietude. She turned to find Emberly Joan approaching, her silhouette framed by the glow of lantern light spilling from the cottage window. Emberly moved with an ethereal grace, her eyes reflecting the wisdom of countless years. "Emberly," Elara greeted, a smile touching her lips. "What brings you here this evening?" "The winds carry whispers of change," Emberly replied cryptically, her voice as soft as the night breeze. "I thought it prudent we speak." They settled on a stone bench beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient oak, the air alive with the gentle rustle of leaves that seemed to lean in, eager to listen. "Draven's arrival has stirred much within Eldergrove," Emberly began, her gaze fixed on the shadows dancing across the ground. And within you. Elara nodded, her thoughts a tangled web of emotions. He is unlike anyone I've ever known. There's a depth to him, as if he carries worlds within his soul. Emberly chuckled softly, a sound like tinkling chimes. He is a bridge between realms, Elara. A guardian of secrets older than memory itself. But such power comes with its own burdens. And what of my own power? Elara asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. I feel it awakening, something ancient and vast, but I fear what it might mean. Emberly reached out, her hand warm and reassuring on Elara's arm. Your gift is a part of Eldergrove's very essence. Embrace it, for it will guide you through the trials to come. Elara's heart quickened at the implication of Emberly's words. Trials? There are those who seek to control our village's magic, Emberly explained, her tone grave. The council's influence grows stronger by the day. Draven's presence threatens their hold, and they will not take kindly to interference. A chill swept over Elara despite the warmth of Emberly's touch. The council was a shadowy force in Eldergrove, their motives veiled in secrecy and their reach long and insidious. What must we do? Elara asked, determination hardening her voice. Unraveling their grip will require courage and unity, Emberly replied. You and Draven must discover the truths hidden within our village's past, a journey fraught with peril but necessary for Eldergrove's salvation. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden rustling from behind them. Both women turned to see Sir Callan Riker emerge from the shadows, his presence as solid and reassuring as the earth itself. Forgive my intrusion, Callan said, his deep voice carrying a hint of apology. But I couldn't help overhearing. If you're speaking of facing the council, you'll need all the allies you can muster. Elara regarded him with gratitude. Your wisdom and strength would be invaluable to us, Callan. He nodded, stepping closer so that the light caught his weathered features. The council's power is built on fear and manipulation. We must show the villagers that there is another way, a path lit by hope rather than despair. Emberly smiled at Callan's words, her eyes meeting Elara's with renewed resolve. Together we can weave a new future for Eldergrove, one where magic is not a weapon but a source of wonder and harmony. Elara felt a surge of warmth spread through her chest, a flicker of hope igniting within her soul. She knew then that she was not alone in this fight. She had allies who believed in her strength and vision for a better world. As they sat beneath the ancient oak, their conversation continued late into the night, plans forming amidst laughter and shared memories. Each word spoken was a thread weaving them closer together, binding their fates with invisible ties stronger than any council's machinations. When at last they parted ways, Elara lingered in the garden for a moment longer, feeling the weight of destiny settle upon her shoulders like a mantle of stars. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but it was one she would walk with courage and conviction. For Eldergrove was more than just home. It was a realm where dreams mingled with reality, where love danced on the edge of oblivion, and where she would fight to protect its magic from falling into darkness. With renewed determination, Elara turned toward her cottage, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The mist swirled around her feet as she walked, a silent promise that even in shadowed times, light would always find a way through. And somewhere beyond sight, yet ever present in her thoughts, was Draven, a kindred spirit whose presence filled her world with both mystery and possibility. Together, they would uncover Eldergrove's secrets, navigating realms where dreams intertwined with nightmares, and where love held the power to rewrite reality itself. Chapter 6. The mist hung low over Eldergrove, a silvery veil that blurred the edges of reality. It was in this ethereal twilight that Elara Whitethorn found herself once again drawn to the village's ancient oak, its branches reaching skyward like the fingers of a forgotten god. Beneath its boughs, she felt the pulse of magic coursing through the earth, a rhythm as old as time itself. Elara's thoughts were a tangled web of emotions, each thread leading back to Draven. Since his arrival, her world had shifted, the boundaries between what was and what could be dissolving like morning dew. She longed for his presence, for the way his voice wrapped around her like a melody only she could hear. Elara, came a voice, soft yet resonant with the weight of ages. It was Emberly Joan, emerging from the shadows with her usual enigmatic grace. Her eyes, pools of deep blue wisdom, met Elara's with an understanding that transcended words. "Emberly," Elara replied, her voice carrying a note of relief she couldn't quite hide. "I had hoped you would come." Emberly nodded, a knowing smile playing at the corners of her lips. "The air is thick with change, my dear, and where there is change, there is always need for guidance." They stood in companionable silence, the night flowers around them glowing softly in the dim light. Elara knew that Emberly saw more than most, her insight a gift and a burden all at once. "The council grows restless," Emberly said at last, her gaze drifting to the horizon where shadows gathered like storm clouds. "Draven's presence has unsettled them." Elara's heart tightened at the mention of his name. "He's not like us, is he?" "No," Emberly replied, her voice a gentle caress. "But neither are you, Elara. You both walk between worlds, bound by threads unseen." Elara turned to Emberly, her curiosity mingling with a flicker of fear. "What does that mean for us? For Eldergrove?" "It means that you have choices to make," Emberly said, her tone laced with both promise and warning. "Choices that will shape not only your future but the fate of this village." As if sensing Elara's hesitation, Emberly reached out, her touch warm and grounding. "Remember, strength lies not in certainty but in courage, the courage to face the unknown and embrace it." Their conversation was interrupted by the distant clang of metal against metal, a sound that reverberated through the stillness like a heartbeat. Elara knew it came from Sir Kellen Riker's forge, where the blacksmith worked tirelessly into the night. "Perhaps it's time you spoke with Kalen," Emberly suggested, reading Elara's thoughts as easily as if they were written in the air between them. "He knows more than he lets on." Elara nodded, feeling the weight of destiny settling upon her shoulders. "Thank you, Emberly." With a final glance at the ancient oak, Elara made her way toward the forge, its glow a beacon in the encroaching darkness. The forge was alive with firelight, its warmth spilling out into the cool night air. Sir Kalen Riker stood at its heart, his hands deftly shaping iron with a skill that spoke of years spent mastering his craft. He looked up as Elara approached, his expression inscrutable yet welcoming. "Elara," he greeted, setting aside his tools with deliberate care. "What brings you here at this hour?" She hesitated for a moment before speaking, aware that this conversation would carry more weight than any they had shared before. "I need your counsel, Callan, about Draven, and about myself." Callan studied her for a long moment, his gaze searching yet kind. "You felt it too, then, the shift in the air." "Yes," Elara admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Everything feels different." Callan nodded slowly, as if her words confirmed something he had long suspected. "Draven is a catalyst, a force meant to awaken what lies dormant within you in this land." "But why now?" Elara asked, her mind racing with questions she had never dared voice aloud. "Because Eldergrove is at a crossroads," Callan replied, his tone grave yet infused with hope. "The council seeks to bind its magic for their own ends. Draven's presence disrupts their plans." Elara felt a shiver run through her at the thought of the council's machinations. "And what about me? What role do I play in all this?" "You are the bridge between worlds," Callan said simply, "a guardian of balance and a beacon of change." His words resonated deep within her, awakening something she had long kept hidden, a spark of power that flickered just beyond reach. "Will you help us?" she asked, meeting Callan's gaze with newfound determination. He smiled then, a rare expression that softened his features and revealed the man behind the stoic facade. "Of course! Together we'll unravel the mysteries that bind us and forge a path toward freedom." As Elara left the forge, she felt the weight of uncertainty lift from her shoulders, replaced by a sense of purpose that burned bright against the encroaching darkness. Days turned into nights as Elara and Draven delved deeper into Eldergrove's secrets. Their bond grew stronger with each whispered word and stolen glance, a connection forged amidst danger and discovery. They walked paths unseen by others, guided by will-o'-the-wisps that danced through the mist like ethereal guardians. With each step they took together, Elara felt herself growing bolder, her powers awakening to meet the challenges ahead. Yet beneath their shared journey lay an undercurrent of tension, an unspoken question that lingered between them like an unfinished melody. One evening, as they sat by the stream where laughter echoed through time itself, Elara finally found the courage to voice it. "Draven," she began hesitantly. His name tasted sweet upon her tongue, a promise waiting to be fulfilled. "Why did you come to Eldergrove?" He turned toward her then, the galaxies within his eyes swirling with secrets untold, and answered without hesitation, "I came because I was drawn here, to you." His words hung suspended between them, a truth so simple yet profound that it left Elara breathless. "And now?" she asked, her heart racing in tandem with destiny itself. "What do we do now?" Draven reached for her hand, his touch grounding yet electric, and replied softly, "We face whatever comes next, together." In that moment, beneath starlit skies where dreams danced alongside reality, Elara knew they would find their way forward, no matter what lay ahead, for love transcended all boundaries, even those woven by magic itself. As dawn broke over Eldergrove once more, casting golden light across cobblestone paths older than memory, Elara felt ready to embrace whatever fate awaited them. Knowing she would not face it alone, but side by side with Draven, whose presence had become as vital as breath itself, a testament to love's enduring power amidst worlds both seen and unseen alike, where whispers lingered long after words had faded away, leaving only echoes behind, a reminder that even amidst shadows, light could always find its way home again, through hearts united against all odds, in defiance of darkness ever encroaching, until daybreak's promise shone anew upon horizons yet undiscovered, where hope remained undimmed by fear's shadowy grasp, and where freedom awaited those brave enough to claim it for themselves, forevermore entwined within magic's embrace eternal. Thank you for listening to My Ghostwriter.